first by saying thank you very much for your generosity in supporting the Founders Circle, because it's that generosity that has really provided the capital and that has allowed us to get to this point. And so we're going to talk today about SAFE 2.0, and I'll begin by just talking briefly about kind of my personal journey. When I interviewed with, I think we advance to the next slide, Ruslan. As I interviewed for the job of AZA president and CEO, when I went into the first interview, I was given a package of background material, that they suggested that I be prepared to speak with the selection committee about, and part of that was a summary of the Saving Animals from Extinction initiative. And so during that initial conversation, they asked me about my opinion, about my thoughts about the SAFE initiative, and I told them, well, just to be frank with you, I'm sitting here as the current director of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, and the first time I have heard or read about this initiative was in the materials to prepare me for the interview. And so I find it curious, maybe troubling, that that AZA is embarking on this kind of initiative and the director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service doesn't know about it. So something is not right in the Fish and Wildlife Service or AZA or both. As I began, once I took the job, and as I've visited more than 35 member institutions in the time since I've been here, I heard many concerns about SAFE. I heard many good things and much excitement, but I heard a number of member concerns, mostly centered on the notion that people were concerned or maybe a bit fearful of proposing or promoting species for involvement in the SAFE initiative because they were fearful of losing control. I heard this at the Oregon Zoo about California condor. I heard it at St. Louis Zoo about hellbender. So heard it from a variety of places that people seem to be reluctant because they were seeing AZA as a source of control, potential delay, and so I found that rather troubling myself, that an initiative like this, Saving Animals from Extinction, that members should be excited and engaged about, and helping to push the organization forward, there seemed to be a kind of collective reluctance. So we have gone through this journey around SAFE, and the original design of SAFE is still the guiding principle here, that zoos and aquariums should be engines driving efforts to save animals from extinction, and that our accredited zoos and aquariums should be leveraging and combining and expanding their efforts to save species, and that we should be building capacity, increasing the direct spending of member institutions on field conservation, and that we should be building the reputation of accredited zoos and aquariums as engines for conservation and as conservation organizations themselves. And we have done this before, and as we know, some species exist only because of the efforts of zoos and aquariums and their partners. And as the Fish and Wildlife Service Director, I'm certainly proud of the history of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on things like California condor and black-footed ferret and Hawaiian birds and Mexican wolf and red wolf. But I know that those things could not have been accomplished without the capacity that resides in zoos and aquariums. So we have to expand this obligation throughout our profession, and SAFE is the way that we're going to do that. So SAFE 2.0. When we talk about SAFE 2.0, again, it's built on that principle, that ambition, the aspiration that was reflected in SAFE 1.0, but we are refining it and re-engineering it to deal with some of the concerns and reluctance that we were hearing from members. What SAFE 2.0 will do is it's going to scale up and build upon SAFE 1.0. We're building in clear metrics for success. We're designing a clear commitment from the AZA board to engage 100% of our members in field conservation and 100% of our engagement and involvement of our members in SAFE. We're providing a simple, sensible framework to help drive this, to build capacity, and to expand the obligation for members to engage in conservation and in SAFE. And we're going to build the public awareness campaign to expand the reputation of AZA members as leaders in conservation and leading conservation organizations, not just organizations that support conservation or fund conservation, but as leading conservation organizations, and build that reputation worldwide. So we're going to move away from this somewhat confusing, well-intentioned but confusing distinction between signature species and member-sponsored species, and we're going to have just SAFE species. The signature, what previously are known as the 10 signature species and the giraffe member-sponsored species, have informed this new approach and framework, but they're all going to be now known as simply SAFE species. Members are going to apply, and they're going to establish project teams. The project teams are going to drive the effort. The Field Conservation Committee is going to play the primary oversight roles, with other committees like PR and marketing, and the SSPs and tags are going to have the opportunity to engage and be informed. But the Field Conservation Committee is going to be the place where that receives the proposals and approves the proposals for new SAFE species. The AZA staff is going to play a consultative role. We're going to track and monitor success. We're going to facilitate communications, and we're going to tell powerful stories about the conservation success of AZA member aquariums and zoos. And we're going to assist the Field Conservation Committee with matchmaking, meaning help to ensure that member efforts are being aggregated, that nobody's being left behind, that people are being encouraged to participate in SAFE species programs and projects, and that we're providing assistance, technical assistance, where necessary. So overall, we're kind of flipping the previous framework on its head, where SAFE 1.0 was being driven by AZA here in Silver Spring. SAFE 2.0 is going to be member-driven. Proposals are going to come up from the membership, and AZA's role is going to be more that of a traditional member service, supporting our members with technical assistance, capacity development, encouragement and obligation, and then telling the stories of the work of our members in saving animals from extinction. So the proposal process and criteria, again, our kudos to our Field Conservation Committee and our members who have helped us build this criteria. So again, members are going to identify the safe species. They're going to identify a program leader. They're going to inform the kind of relevant committees and elements of AZA, like the tags and the SSP. Directors are going to communicate to other directors via the directors listserv and other mechanisms to, again, make sure that nobody is left behind, that people that have long-standing interests in species like, say, lowland gorilla or giraffe are not going to be, they're not going to be outflanked by, upstarts in the conservation community. So we're gonna work on a lot of communication to make sure that we are, in fact, aggregating member effort, that we're building upon member capacity and expertise. The proposals are going to be evaluated based on criteria. We want at least 2 AZA members with a history of work for that species to be engaged. We want the plans to be built on established conservation plans and efforts. We want stakeholders to be identified and engaged. We want the project team to develop and implement a 3-year plan so that we're focused on measurable outcomes. The Field Conservation Committee is going to review those proposals based on those criteria and assign a liaison to provide ongoing support for the effort. I think the most important and exciting part of SAFE 2.0 is defining the kind of measures of success. And again, this is where all of you as Founders Circle members should be particularly proud, because what we are doing is we are setting aspirational goals and objectives for ourselves that we're going to hold ourselves to as a community, and that we're going to be able to talk about in building that member reputation. 100% of our members involved in field conservation, so that AZA and our entire membership is walking the talk, that a modern zoological facility exists for a purpose, and the purpose is to conserve animals in nature, and we are, all of us, 100% engaged in field conservation. And SAFE is going to be the framework that will empower, cajole, embarrass members to be engaged in conservation. So in this first 5-year period, we'll reach that objective of 100% engagement. AZA members will contribute more than $1 billion to support field conservation. So over this 5-year period, direct funding for field conservation will exceed $1 billion. Who else can make that kind of a claim? And it allows every AZA member to be proud of the fact that they are part of a group of professional organizations that are among the global elite in terms of their commitment, financial commitment to conservation, and that that direct expenditure will inspire other partners and stakeholders to leverage an additional $1 billion in conservation. So over this 5-year period, we'll be able to claim and show that our work has driven more than $2 billion collectively into field conservation that is saving animals from extinction. We'll have at least 30 safe species identified, with AZA members being active participants in at least one of those. Our board of directors, our AZA members, AZA committees, SSPs, and tags are going to be all working together toward this conservation, and that a member and AZA-led public awareness communication campaign is shaping the recognition of AZA members as leading conservation organizations. So, so every year we're going to have powerful, compelling stories to tell about safe species and what is being accomplished towards saving them from the peril of extinction. Beyond this, we're looking to a 10-year, so 5 years and then 10 years. And so as we go forward, we'll have more of our members contributing more resources to field conservation, so that over that second 5-year period, we'll drive a minimum of $1.5 million in direct financial contribution into field conservation, and that will leverage another $1.5 billion. So over 10 years, we're going to be able to claim that we are going to drive more than $5 billion in field conservation efforts to save animals from extinction. Again, what other group can claim that kind of commitment and that kind of impact? We're going to continue expanding cooperation among members so that field conservation is a cultural norm and it's a professional obligation. We're going to have at least 50 safe species over that 10-year period, and that those member-led efforts are going to produce demonstrable impacts for safe species. So we're going to be able to make bold claims and about financial commitment on annual, on 5-year, on 10-year levels. But as we get into this 10-year time frame, we're going to be able to show demonstrable impacts for the species themselves. So reduced threats, reduced rates of decline, reintroductions, recoveries. We're going to be able to show tangible benefits for the species and tell those stories that are going to build the reputation of AZA members as leading conservation organizations, and that ultimately in this 10-year time frame that we're going to be able to see that and measure that in terms of a shift in positive public opinion about AZA accredited aquariums and zoos. This transition that we've been talking about from the current SAFE to SAFE 2.0 is going to be complete by the middle of 2019. We're going to work to transition the signature species. We're going to remain faithful to the current 3-year conservation planning process, but over that period of time, we'll be transitioning them to this new framework, and we are going to work on developing best practices and templates. We're going to work on a professional development curriculum to kind of support the evolution of SAFE and the development of SAFE. We're going to help with conservation planning approaches in leveraging member expertise. We have great members like San Diego Zoo Global and Bronx Zoo and WCF and Monterey Bay Aquarium and Georgia Aquarium and many others that have conservation planning capabilities, and we're going to build upon those and help grow those and make those available to a broad range of our membership. And we're going to have an iterative approach to conservation accreditation standards. The board of directors is currently considering new conservation standards that have been developed in cooperation with the Accreditation Commission. But as time goes on and we learn more about SAFE and member participation and engagement, then I think we can expect to see a steady raising of the bar, so to speak, so that this kind of conservation obligation is increasingly reflected in accreditation standards. Public engagement, of course, is the ultimately our goal is to build a reputation for accredited zoos and aquariums, and so we're going to use the safe species and the metrics of success to tell a story of our members' conservation work and build that reputation. We're going to drive a national campaign with safe species as conservation content. That's going to begin late this year or early next year with specific kickoff events. AZA is going to work with its members to focus on kind of national level events like Earth Day and World Oceans Day. We're going to work with members to develop tools and resources to elevate public awareness and evaluate projects for national potential, which are the ones that really are the most powerful ones for us to use at the national level, in addition to the ones that our members are using at the kind of local to regional scale. That's going to be a principal focus for AZA as we look into the future, really expanding public awareness, driving a national campaign with participation from our members, and building reputation. The AZA staff are going to provide support and kind of building this kind of social obligation among and between members to get them engaged in conservation, in more conservation, and in more effective conservation. We're going to work to make sure that this transition is orderly and stepwise to the new member-led safe species framework. We're going to provide a clear framework for member involvement in strategic conservation, work on coordination of professional development. We're going to identify tools and best practices. We're going to monitor what's going on with the safe species, and particularly with regard to progress toward these metrics, provide ongoing consultation and support and encouragement, and a national voice to elevate the work of our members, utilizing these powerful safe species success stories. We're also evaluating the opportunity to use our Conservation Grants Fund to prioritize funding for safe species. That's a larger communication which we've already begun, and if we can do that, then I think we can see some real opportunity that we can expand the potential for outside donations and funding to support the Conservation Grants Fund. So all kind of tied together. I think the safe is the right idea at the right time as we all kind of struggle with how to respond to this what many scientists now are calling the kind of sixth mass extinction. What are we going to do to save animals from extinction? And I think this is a powerful reply to that larger societal obligation that these 230 AZA accredited aquariums and zoos are rising to that challenge. We're expanding our obligation. We're coming together to coordinate our efforts. We're building powerful stories that are going to engage and inspire the public. We're going to expand financial commitment both within our members and to appeal to donors. And we're going to be able to do that because we're going to have a compelling vision. We're going to have a simple process with clear metrics for success. We're going to tie into larger conservation movements and existing plans for the saving animals from extinction. We're going to grow a larger number of partners and deeper relationships with partners. And so I think this is the kind of effort that will be able to be successfully leveraged into financial and in-kind support. It's going to grow these things we call best practices. We're going to see success, and success is going to build upon success. And so I think that all of the key ingredients are here with SAFE 2.0. And the most important thing is that we're going to be building on member initiative and member capacity. So we're going to hopefully do away with this reluctance that we were feeling, that was kind of friction within the former framework for SAFE. And so I think by transitioning to this methodology, we're going to build upon what many of our members have always done, and that is a great conservation. And we're creating the potential to expand that and really build a movement where that pays dividends to our members because it will build their reputation. I think we presented this to our board of directors in our July meeting, and we got unanimous enthusiasm and support from our board of directors, and that's leading us into our annual conference coming up in a little more than a week in Indianapolis, where we're going to have several panels focusing on SAFE and SAFE 2.0, and where we'll be hearing from some inspiring speakers and others about the potential for us to help drive conservation. So again, the kind of right idea at the right time. I think these changes that are reflected in SAFE 2.0 are positioning AZA members and AZA to become the conservation leaders that they need to be, and as we all struggle with a response to the sixth mass extinction and the challenges surrounding that. So I thank you for your participation in this webinar today. I've been speaking quickly, so I'd be happy to open it up for a question or a comment. All right. Hearing none.
Dan, this is Tom Saul for the Columbus Zoo in the Wilds. I think it's a great move. I do have some concerns about field conservation, that committee, making sure that we have the resources to be able to accomplish the goals, but I think we're right on track.
Thanks, Tom, and I certainly saw in Technicolor last week at Columbus Zoo in the Wild, some of the great things that you all have done and continue to do, and talking to your staff about their passion around great apes and bonobo and things like that, the work you're doing on rhino and other things. I think there's just great opportunity to build on that passion and that success and aggregate member efforts. So thanks. I think your concern about the field conservation committee has been expressed by a number of people, and so we're going to be involved in discussions in Indianapolis with the field conservation committee about how we can ensure their success and help make sure that they have the capacity that they need. And of course, one of the key ingredients of that is making sure that this process is simple and streamlined, and that they don't inherit a kind of overly burdensome process. And the fact that they've been involved in the development of that process, I think, is hopefully is surety that's the result we'll get. Simple, streamlined, effective for them. All right. Well, I will again say thank you to each and every one of you who joined in the Founders Circle, because that financial commitment reflects your dedication to this idea of conservation and building a new kind of framework where we can do more and better conservation in the future. And without that commitment, we would not be here today, and looking forward to working with you all in the future to make SAFE 2.0 all it can be, and to build your reputation as conservation leaders. So thank you very much for your time today, and if there's no further question or comment, then we'll say see you in Indianapolis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks a lot.